If you've been following the videos up to this point, we now have a character we named Bob and an armature, which is the bones that control Bob. We can go into the pose mode to see how this works, and we can click on any one of these bones, press G or R or S, and you can see that while we move the character around, it deforms the mesh. Now, what we want to do is save some of these moved positions so that we can have a character animation. And that's going to need the timeline. So we're going to drag the bottom of the screen up here so we can see our timeline. On the right side of the timeline, it says what the start and the end of our playback range. So this is 250 frames. And that's too much for us. We're going to have just a short little animation. Let's try, say, 30 frames for now. So I just changed that to 30. You can also zoom in if you want to see your range a little bit clearer. Now, what we have is this character here. And before I begin anything, I'm going to move the whole character up because I don't like that half of the character is split down the world. So we're going to take, let's go back to object mode. Make sure that you have the armature selected. I'm going to press G, Z, and just lift that character up. And a little bit more. There we go. If you now have a different view or a bad view like this, you can hold down the shift key and move 2 fingers to scroll around. Okay, now back to creating our animation here. We need to use pose mode, so make sure you again have the armature selected and go to pose mode. I want to start with the character arms down. So I'm going to have the very first frame here, I'm going to fix the position so that I'm happy with the way he's standing. So I'll grab this one, I will press R to rotate, and I'm going to rotate on the X-axis. So I'm just going to bring the arm down. And then I'm going to press R again, and maybe something like this. And now this one too, R, X, U, down like this, and then R, X to go in as well. We can have this on his hips, that's fine. Maybe I'll go a little bit more on this one. Okay. If we turn off the visibility of the armature, so we can open this up and then we make sure that Bob is still visible, but we turn off the armature, we can see that Bob looks like this. I'm going to turn the armature back on. And if I'm happy with this position, then what I can do is I can save the position of all the bones. So I need to press A. While I'm in pose mode, I press A, so I select all the bones at the same time. And this is very important that you do this. Then you press I, and it says Insert Keyframe. Choose Location, Rotation, and Scale. Now we see an orange dot appear here, which is the keyframe that saves all the data of all the bones and where we position them. We can move the timeline forward, and we can say at 15, which is going to be the halfway point, we can change his position. So I'm going to have him put his arms up over his head. So again, hold shift, 2-finger move so that I can move around here, and I'll choose a bone that I want to rotate. I'm going to rotate this one again on the X-axis, but we'll go this way. That doesn't look comfortable. Rotate on the X-axis, and then the same thing. Rotate X, rotate X. And just a little bit more here. Okay, so I'm happy with this position. Again, do not save it while you have one bone selected. Make sure you press A to select all bones. Then press I, location, rotation, scale. Now we have this keyframe and the first keyframe are two different positions. So as we scroll through the timeline, Blender actually does the math and figures out how your character should move to get to that position. If you want to have the character repeat the animation, it's as simple as taking that first dot here, copying it, changing your timeline to where you want it, and pasting it there. And now if we hit play, we can see that the character moves the arms up and down in a fluid motion.